I thought it was high time that we spent a little bit of time going over 10 of the most confusing, head-scratching Transformers alt modes that I could possibly think of. Not to say that there isn't more, there's been a lot of them, and we're going to touch on a bunch of them before we get to the actual countdown. Stick around, because we're going to look at some peculiar vehicles, we'll say, for a number of Transformers toys in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel once again. I am your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share. Check me out everywhere, as well as Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor, and Universal Collision. You might even hear me around on a few other projects that I'm working on. Anyway, on we go. The last time that I did a countdown, I got a whole lot of flack because a bunch of people said, hey, you left off this one, you left off that one, and that's fine. That's exactly what I was going for. When I did my last countdown, I specifically left off a number of Beast Wars characters, figures, because they would have been too obvious additions to that list. And I wanted to be a little bit outside the box. And I got a bunch of great suggestions, but I did get a whole ton of flack. So before we get into this countdown, let's go through kind of a slew of honorable mentions here and kind of give the setup for what I'm using as my 10 pegs going through the list. So we're talking about weird alt modes, modes that kind of don't make any sense, and there's a whole bunch that we could put on this. For example, the monster bots, because come on, what do they turn into? You look at Grotesque here, who I looked at very, very recently, and he's like a winged wolf claw bipedal thing. But at the same time, I don't include the monster bots on the list because we know that they're supposed to be completely fictional, and it's really just based on pure creativity. So we can take the monster bots out of it. We could also include such things as the Transformers Prime Predacons, and this is Skylinks. Okie dokie. Again, kind of the same thing as the monster bots. These are just supposed to be beasts, completely fictional beasts, not really based on anything real per se, as I understand it. And of course I could be wrong, but I don't think that I am. What about Galvatron? We could include Galvatron. He's not going to be on the list because I don't have the version that I would want, which is the Titan Return version. But again, was he a cannon? Was he a tank? I know people are going to say space cannon or Cybertronian mode. We're not going to allow that, however, to be a cop-out this time around. We could include anything from Beast Machines, really, because everything about that was just plain weird. Here's Tankor, and yes, he turns into a tank, but it's kind of a stylized tank, but still you can recognize that it's a tank. That's why I don't include anything from Beast Machines. Honorable mention, gotta go out to Vector Prime. I don't have him, but come on, that thing is, I guess it's a spaceship, a space satellite, I really don't know. And there's a couple of strange alt modes that Soundwave has had, such as the lamp post of episode 1. I let that slide though because there were other lampposts around that looked just like him. And, heck, we could even throw in the Revenge of the Fallen version of him that turns into a satellite thing, I guess. From what I remember and understand, I don't know. We have You could definitely put Na on the list if you wanted to, because come on, he is a bipedal shark with arms. That's not a thing. It's just not. a thing. Again, you might say, hey, but it's an alien robot. And I get that. But again, I don't want to use that as a cop-out. What about Dark of the Moon Shockwave? I think he's a tank, but I'm not sold on it. And of course, who could forget the Robots in Disguise Megatron that had several modes, one of which was a hand. Because nothing says fun with your transforming plastic robots like saying, hey, this thing can turn into a hand. And last but not least, the last shout out here goes to Six Shot, because depending on how you look at him, either he's completely successful in all of his modes or not successful in any of them. You know, he kind of looks like a car because he has 4 tires and rolls. He kind of looks like a plane because I guess it has wings. And so on and so forth. So there's a whole bunch that could appear here, but don't. This list is going to be made up of ones that either did or still do kind of confound me and make me scratch my head. It's made up of official releases only, and really from the main lines that you could go out and buy on the pegs. It is also going to be somewhat limited in that I'm really focusing on figures that have come out within the last, about 10 years or so. So with that being said, we're going to take these guys off screen and we're going to jump right into number 10. And here we have everyone's grumpy old man, Cop. Now I know what a lot of people are going to say, wait, right away with number 10, you have a very obvious alt mode. You have Cop in his Cybertronian truck, but come on. Is that actually an effective thing? If these robots are vehicles, wouldn't they be like the ideal design of these vehicles? This thing doesn't have sides. I don't think you'd really be able to store anything in him, but I will give credit where credit is due. It is pretty clear here that this end is the front. I mean, we have the front grille and whatnot, but the reason that he is included on this list is because as a kid, I had the toy, the original G1 toy, long before I ever saw the guy in season 3 or on the program. And until that happened, I thought that this end was the front and that he was a car and I drove him this way. Just like that. When I finally saw the original film and season 3, my mind was blown when I saw that he actually went this way instead. For that reason alone, because I wasn't able to tell what direction Cup was supposed to originally travel in, he's got to take the number 10 slot. Number 9 is going to go to another familiar face or alt mode. This one is Blur. And again, he looks sleek, he looks great. And a lot of people will say here for number 9 that, hey, this is obvious. Blur is a car. Okay, sure. I'll give you that he is by rights a car. But a couple of things that I've never really understood is he supposed to just be a hover car, or does he have tires and is supposed to roll? Does he hover because he goes so fast? I've never really understood, if he's already kind of off the ground, or if he does actually roll on the ground and just has the ability to lift off of it because of his intense speed. And I throw this one here because this particular model, this alt mode, has actually been used for both a car, as evidenced here, and with the Titans Return RC, but then pretty much the exact same thing has also been used for a flying craft, namely Brainstorm and Nautica. Because this is a versatile mode that can be both a land-based vehicle and an air-based vehicle, which one does it really fall under? And for that reason, I throw him in at number 9. Now things are going to start to get a little more weird. And at number 8, the Autobot Titan Masters fly into battle, I guess, or do they roll or hover? I don't know what either of these things are. I mean, granted, Tiro, or Swoop's Head if you will, makes a fine dinosaur mode, but I don't know. Is this a glider, a flyer? Why is the head backwards? Is this supposed to be some sort of a blaster out front? And why are the wings up? If this is still some sort of a flying vehicle for the Titan Master to ride in, shouldn't the wings still be down? Or is this just a glider, or maybe it rolls? Perhaps it is meant to go on water. The same can be said for Repugnus. We have a robot lying on his back with his legs and arms kind of up, and that's it really. I don't know what either of these things are. If you do, please feel free to let me know, because I assume that they're flying apparatuses for the Titan Masters to use, but at the end of the day, they are real weak, and I feel like they were just shoehorned in there so that we could get a decent dino mode and, of course, a decent monster bot mode for such a little sized figure. Anyway, they take the number 8 spot because they are both tied for being truly weird and perhaps two of the weakest modes for the Little Titans Master figures. Don't get me wrong, fellow babies. The fact is, I absolutely love Topspin. I think he was one of the strongest releases from the Titans Return line, with crisp colors, great angles, an innovative transformation, excellent articulation, and even areas like his forearms have the hollowness kind of covered up with panels. This guy turned out fantastic in robot mode, but when we put him in vehicle mode, what is this? I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, it's like a Cybertronian space jet, naturally. But if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the original Jumpstarter meant to be an aquatic vehicle? So does this go on the water or in space or both? At the end of the day, it looks cool, it looks sleek. I use it as if it's a spacefaring vehicle because of these huge thrusters in the back. But at the end of the day, Topspin, for as awesome as he is, really transforms kinda into a great big blue ball of nothing. And I'm okay with that because he's cool anyway. Since my goal was to stay within 10 years, this guy just barely ekes onto the list. It is the Voyager class, Transformers the movie version of Megatron. Actually, this version, with a few custom paint apps of mine, came out as part of a box set during the Revenge of the Fallen era, and he turns into a Cybertronian plane. I believe that's what this is supposed to be, because it kind of has a nose cone, and I guess these are wings. Why the tips of the wings can fold up. Actually, this one can't really fold up. Here we go. Why the wings can fold up and down, I don't particularly know. Do they make him fly faster? And I guess all this is supposed to be ice on his wings, but really, it's a bit of a stretch. I like the mode. I think it has a menacing look to it. And a lot of people don't like this figure. I didn't think it was too bad, to be honest with you. But, again, the shining part of the movie-verse Megatron would definitely be his spiky-looking robot mode. His alt modes, whether it's this or whether it's that Revenge of the Fallen Cybertronian tank, were both pretty lackluster and really not anything. Just kind of big balls of spikes. One rolled on the ground and one flew in the air. The argument could be made that this is so obviously a plane, but I feel like if somebody wasn't familiar with the character and they just saw this, they would hold it in their hands, turn it around, size it up, and end up saying that I don't know what this thing is. And when somebody told them it was a plane, the best reaction we could get is, oh yeah, I guess I see it now. These are the wings. And how aerodynamic can he be with his two arms flailing out front here? For that reason, this guy takes the number 6 spot. Almost as strange as that movie verse Megs is this guy who comes in at number 5. It is, of course, the space boat mode of Alpha Trion. Space aircraft carrier? I don't know, it's like a big elongated beach ball that would go through the bleakness and darkness of space. This is really nothing at all. I see it and immediately my first thought, which it turned out to be the case, was that, hey, this is going to get reused somehow, some way to give us broadside. And of course, this aircraft carrier mode works better for that character. Here, the assumption is that this is a spaceship thing. I assume. Maybe it's just a little hovercraft. I don't know. I assume it's supposed to be a spaceship thing. Cruiser mode. I really don't see any form of propulsion on the back, so that alone makes it interesting. And we obviously have arms folded up on the side. I understand that when we have a triple changer, that there's always going to be that mode that gets kind of sacrificed for the other two. And we have a decent robot here, arguably a decent line, but obviously this is the weakest of the three modes. It almost feels like a fan mode. Of course, this guy can also become a bunch of base configurations, and they're all fan modes. So at the end of the day, maybe Alpha Trion doesn't really know what he turns into. And perhaps that's okay, since we never ever saw an alt mode, in his cartoon appearances. Nevertheless, because Alpha Trion can't even figure out what he is, neither can we, and for that reason, he grabs the number 5 spot. And seafaring space vessels keep going forward when we look at number 4, that of course being Scourge. I've heard this called a space boat and a space submarine. If it's in space, shouldn't it be a spaceship? I'm just saying. Again, this is obviously a vehicle mode. Presumably it flies. I guess that right here on the shoulders, it is supposed to be the propulsion. It does sort of have a boat-esque look to it, but it's not really anything. I mean, you want to talk about a robot in disguise. This is not a disguise, because I can guarantee you that if anybody saw this, it would immediately grab their attention, because they would say, hey, that's not a thing. It's just not. And it's big and really, really blue. In disguise, I don't think so. Space boat sub ship, definitely. But because we can't nail it down for sure and certain, we gotta give Scourge the honorable spot of number 4. And here we are at number 3 with the Fall of Cybertron version of Onslaught. Now, that being the case, and you look at this dude, I guess it's a truck. We know that that's what the original character is supposed to be. A truck that you could recognize is a truck. Probably like a weapon embankment truck, but a recognizable vehicle nonetheless. This is barely recognizable. It has no back to be able to carry anything. Obviously there are combiner ports here. Yes, it has 4 tires and a Bruticus head down and under. And I suppose you could say, hey, the blasters are up here, so it still fits the bill. But at the end of the day, I don't know if we would call this an armored up car, or a truck, or a rock with tires. It's kind of one of those things that, like, this had to be the alt mode because we need it to work for a combined mode, so we'll worry about the combined mode, even though they made this torso too small. That's a different story that I looked at way back when I did my Bruticus versus Bruticus series, the comparison series. They said, we'll get a reminiscent robot mode, we're going to kind of focus on the torso mode. We'll put tires somewhere and call it a truck. At the end of the day, this isn't really anything. And though some people might argue with me and say, it's obviously a truck, and that's cool. If you can see one clearly here, more power to you. I don't see it clearly here. I feel like this is a big blue and green ball of nothing. And for that reason, I got to give him the number 3 spot. And number 2 probably goes to the one that everybody figured would take the top spot. It has to be the Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Fallen figure. Now, granted, the guy's a prime, he looks imposing. It's a rather large Voyager class toy that I looked at way back in episode 29 or 30. I think that this is supposed to be a plane. Let's be honest. He never, from what I can recall, transformed in the movie. We never actually saw an alt mode, but they had to give one to the figure, so they kind of focused on making an accurate robot, and then we got this. And I'm sure it was called Cybertronian Plane Mode or some such nonsense. The bottom line is, just because you give it a nose cone, doesn't make it a plane. Where are the wings on this? Is it supposed to be the feet down like so? That's the least aerodynamic wings I could possibly imagine on a flying vehicle. The argument has also been made that when he's traversing through space, the feet go up to make his space thrusters. This is a perfect example of taking a weird robot mode and saying, hey, we're going to bend his shoulders all the way up and down over his chest, and we're going to turn the legs all the way towards the back and fold them in, and we're going to call that a thing. When in reality, it's not a thing. If you squint, maybe you'd say it's a plane. And if this one piece wasn't here, because that's the only piece that would possibly tell you that this might be a plane, if that one piece wasn't there, you tell me, what would this glob of dark greenish blackish spikes be? Oh, that's right. It'd be nothing. Nothing! And for that reason, he has to take the number 2 spot. We're going to go right now into the top spot. The number 1 spot. And it probably unexpectedly belongs to the Fall of Cybertron Shockwave. Absolutely, positively the most nothing of all of the nothings. A great robot mode that turns into this spiky thing. I assume that up front here is a blaster. So I guess that's a throwback to his original mode. I like the fact that it's elongated. Again, a throwback to that original mode. And obviously it's a vehicle, so I kind of dig the fact that he is mobile now. But I don't know if this goes on water. Like, are these, could it go on water, I guess I should say. I know it doesn't in the video game, but could it? Because we kind of have these bows here where his toes stick out. Does it go way up into space as just a spaceship? Is it just like a low atmosphere flying craft, kind of akin to a plane? Because he does have these wings here, and I assume his hands are what becomes his thrusters. I assume that the battle bridge or whatever would be up here where his chest is. It obviously doesn't have tires. Is it just a hovercraft type of thing? Going back to Blur, could he kind of, travel the same roads or not quite roads as that guy? At the end of the day, I think that the goal was to get like a mobile blaster, something that was kind of long and reminiscent of his original alt mode while being able to, traverse. It doesn't have to be stationary because, of course, if you're playing a video game and you have a character who can just be stationary, that's not going to be a very fun video game or a great toy. Nevertheless, he shines in his robot mode, which does look great, even if a little bit too small. But because he turns into this contraption of purple boat hover plane space jet thing, he has to take the number 1 slot. No doubt in my mind. Anyway, that's it. That's another 10 down through 1 that we've taken a look at. A whole slew of honorable mentions were given earlier on. A whole bunch of honorable mentions. And I guess that's about it. The only thing left to say is thanks for dropping by. Let me know what you think of these guys and who you would have put on the list that I may have neglected. As always, I thank you for giving me some of your very valuable time. I thank you so much for being here, and I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.